All right, guys, so one of the biggest things when you're wiring your vehicle is making it look neat. And I've found that the best way to make your wiring look really neat is to use some of this split loom. And it's got a slit in it here, and you just slide that up over your wires, and it helps hide everything. You can just shove it all inside of this. And guys, the good news is with this split loom is that it comes in a variety of different sizes to accommodate all of your spaghetti. All right, guys, so as promised, this is going to be the detailed wiring video. I don't know how detailed really it's going to be. Hopefully it helps you guys out. I know last time I basically didn't film anything on the wiring, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The main reason, I'm actually an electrician, so wiring just kind of comes easy to me. You know, I understand the theory behind it and how things, the pixies do what they need to do. And so the wiring honestly came easy to me last time we did this. Essentially, I did the wiring in my downtime, like as it was busy work, waiting for parts and this and that. I had a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, figured this wire here out, do this, do that. And so I never really sat down and just did the wiring for a week, And so it was kind of hard. I did film a few things here and there on it, and there's just never enough to put into a video and make sense, So I never released any of that. And the other reason is it kind of turned out like a mess because, like I said, I never sat down and took the time just to do it. And I started out good. I tried at the beginning, and then I needed extra wires that I didn't put in my loom originally, and it just started running wires here, there, everywhere, splices, butt connectors, scotch lock, the things everyone hates. And honestly, it all worked pretty good. The only thing I ever had an issue with was in order to make the cruise control work, I needed 3 or 4 relays just because of how things worked out. And on our trip out to Ohio, the last big trip we took the truck on, the cruise control quit. And I think it was just because one of those relays got a little corrosion on the terminals because it wasn't really nicely done. I mean, there were just relays hanging under the hood. So I really wish they had found the footage because, I never highlighted the wiring, and showed you guys, but it was just this spaghetti mess of wiring. And we're standing up there at Rich's, DeBoss Garage's place shooting this video. And Aaron goes, "Rich, did he say he was an electrician? You want to do a bit about this mess of wiring over here?" And that was the moment I realized I needed to do better. But I'm not saying anything bad about Aaron. He was awesome. I liked, it was a good time meeting him because you don't really get to know him in the videos. He's never, he's always behind the camera doing all the editing, and he's a really cool guy. We had a good time up there with them. But anyways, so I'm going to walk you through kind of the process I went through to kind of figure some stuff out, figure out what a good starting point. I don't know if it's a good starting point. It's the starting point I chose to start with. I know a lot of people have said, a detailed wiring video on, the Allison swap. And here's the thing about that. So I found a source for the transmission controller, the TCM, wiring harness kit and all this stuff. He's supposed to be starting to make it this week. I did, kind of talk with him a little bit, told him I had a YouTube channel. He does this for a living. That's his, how he makes his money is selling the information that he has. And so it doesn't really makes sense for me to buy that information and then give it away for free. You know what I mean? That's like me going out and buying a CD and then putting it on Livewire for everyone, or LimeWire, what was it? It wouldn't be fair to him. And he did, say there were a few things that he definitely doesn't want me to show on video. The whole Allison thing, it seems to be fairly competitive, shoot, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. But the whole Allison transmission industry seems to be real secretive, and, everyone has their own special sauce and the way that they do things, and it's all very secretive, out of respect for him and what he does and, the help that he's providing me. We're not going to, if he doesn't want it shown, we're not going to show it. So the Allison side of things, I might throw in some time lapses here and there of me making up connectors, but it's not going to be this wire goes here, this wire goes here, do this to make this work. You guys may not like it, but that, it is what it is. Anyways, let's dive into this. All right, so I got some of my wiring plugged back in, and right now what I'm doing is kind of going through it, trying to remember what things do, what everything was for, getting rid of things that we don't need. So like this connector here, these two were for the factory cruise control. We don't need that anymore. So we'll take those wires right out all the way to this connector, and that'll open up 2 more spots in this round, well, actually 4 more spots in that round connector for us to run wires through. I went ahead and bought a neat little fuse box. Still trying to figure out where I'm going to mount that. I was thinking about to the fender, but I don't know, maybe we'll make some sort of mount that extends off of our washer reservoir so that this will mount up right there. That way it's not on the fender. That way I can do most of the wiring with the fender off, you know, because this is a lot easier than with the fender on it. So this fuse panel has, I think, like 6 fuse spots, and then it also has a bunch of relays, which is good because previously I had a relay here, 3 relays here, 2 relays there, a relay here, and then this disaster here. So I'm trying to clean this up, make the wiring look much neater than this, and do a lot better than this. I'm trying to remember what all these relays were for. I'm pretty sure this cluster of relays here, actually I wrote on it. CM pin 11. Okay, you can't read what's written on them, but I wrote on them. But I'm pretty sure those were for my cooling fans. I believe that these 2 had to do with the transmission and cruise control. One of these was for my reverse lamps, and one was for my shift modulator, which I don't believe we'll need anymore. So yeah, we're gonna get to work trying to figure this mess out. I didn't make it easy on myself. So I spent some time the other day, like 2 months ago, tearing wires out of here that I don't need. I believe I did like a short clip on that. You know, took out some of the old cruise control stuff, labeled everything that I took out. So this is the brake lamp light circuit, high beam dash light. Just, you know, a few things that we're not gonna need where we're going. We'll need this one. I tore out the majority of like the wiring that I had done previously, just so I could just redo it all and make it much neater. You know, there's a lot of things in here like this. And this is actually factory Ford right here. The red wire with the green stripe is hot and run, hot and crank, ignition 12 volt. So this comes on like as soon as you turn the key and it stays hot while you're cranking, which is good. You need that for the ignition source on your ECM. But like, I don't know, I feel like, I mean, I added these butt splices, but there's a ton of these that come factory from Ford. And I found like a resistor and a diode here. Not sure what that did, but I don't think we needed that anymore. I found this interesting plug. I came across this last time when I did the wiring, and it sits up here behind your headlight bulb. And when you unplug it, it's got wires in there, and there's actually jumpers that jump 4 of the wires, 2 pairs together, but there's like 8 wires, 7 wires going to it. So I took some time and tried to figure out what the heck this whole contraption does. I still don't know what it does, but I'm pretty sure I don't need it. Yeah, so I cut that out of there, cut those wires back here, and we'll end up pulling them out of this connector at some point here, giving ourselves some more spots, because we're going to be using this connector for all of our wires. That's the plan anyways. So I believe the Ford refers to these as wedge locks. Well, actually, I know they refer to them as wedge locks because I had to order some. And every pin on the back of these connectors is numbered. So if you just keep track of what you put on what number on this side, when you do the inside wiring, it's just, you just got to put that same wire on the same number. So inside of these connectors, once you take them apart, there's this red piece in here. That's actually like your lock. That's what keeps the pins in. So you got to get like a pick and just kind of pop that sucker out of there. Probably like a special tool that I don't have. Pick works too. Can't find my hook pick, but maybe this thing will work. Be easy on it and just kind of work it back and forth. This is a Tecumseh, part number 670377, for removing the seat and then putting it back in on a carburetor. Works good for that though. So this one here, parking brake. Usually if you give them a little wiggle, you can tell which one it is. So you can see that pin moving back and forth. Grab onto that tab, and then you just pull the pin right out. And that's what they look like. I have some new ones that we're going to be using. All right, I think that's about all we can tear out for now. I will be changing that out for something better. All right, cool. Guys, we're making some progress on this fuse box holder contraption thing. Originally, I was going to use the original washer fluid jug holder thing that I made, but I honestly, this was just like a couple pieces of scrap I just welded together and it worked okay, and it was always really crooked and weird looking. And there just wasn't enough material here to attach that fuse holder to. I was also going to incorporate this sprocket into it. I don't know why, but I have it, and I was going to use it for something to hold something somewhere, and it just wasn't going to work out either. But what we have here is pretty beefy, and I think it's going to do a pretty decent job. It also holds the washer fluid jug a little bit better, but as you can see, it's really something here. Yeah, so this is going to go into the truck right here. It's going to bolt right to the firewall, so it'll be nice and close to all my other wires, so we can get stuff in and out of there. The only thing I have left to do to this, I want to make a bottom for it. It's not going to cover like the whole thing, but basically this will just help prevent water from getting in behind here and protect our electrical connections. This fuse block is supposed to be waterproof, but you know how that goes. So I figured it's right there by the wheel. So if I can put something here just to kind of help keep moisture and salt from getting up behind there, it'll help prevent problems in the future. And now we'll drill a hole and put a grommet somewhere so that we can run all the wires through. So that's turning out pretty decent. And once we get that all on there, we'll get it painted up and put it in. And then we can kind of start running wires to the fuse block location. Go from there, start wiring things up. All right, so you're gonna wanna get yourself a wire diagram for your Cat engine. And the wiring diagram I'm gonna show you is for
8Y AlliCat 3126,
which is the truck engine. It's best to get the wire diagram for your specific serial number, because there are some differences when it comes to like the military spec and marine. Not that you guys are going to be putting a marine engine in one of these, but they do make them a little bit different. So it's best just to get the diagram from your serial number. That way you know that everything's right. Your Cat dealership might be able to hook you up. You might be able to find it online. I don't know. My Cat dealership hooked me up. So this is what the Cat wiring diagram looks like. There's two 70-pin connectors on the ECM. There's one on the left, which does all of your engine side stuff here. Here, let me turn it that way for you. That's a little more better. So you can see on the left there, it shows all the injectors and all the different sensors, and then it shows you what pin they go back to in that connector. And then on the bottom here, it shows you the OEM vehicle electrical schematic, which is basically like your vehicle interface between the ECM and the cab. All your inputs when you turn the key on, and it shows you on the right what pin numbers and what everything kind of does there. It also gives you wire colors. So what I did when I first started out here, I basically just went through this list one by one and tried to figure out if it was something that I needed for what I was doing. I just made a list here of all the different ones that we need. Right, so we need the 8-volt throttle pedal wire, the accelerator pedal return, data link, cooling fan, exhaust brake. I don't know if we're going to put an exhaust brake on it, but last time I didn't have the wire there, and if I wanted the wire, I would have had to run an extra. So this time around, I'm going to just run a wire and put it in the cab somewhere just in case. I don't think we're going to need the shift modulator, but I put that in there just because. And one thing that you'll notice looking at these schematics, so like right here, we have service brake pedal position number 2 normally open, and service brake pedal position switch normally closed. One is positive, one is negative. So they set these ECMs up to be fairly modular so that they can just swap them from vehicle to vehicle. And some vehicles use a negatively switched, normally closed contact, so you would lose that ground when you hit the brakes. And some use, like my truck, the pedal is positive and it's normally open. When you hit the brakes, it closes. It turns on the rear brake lights. So to figure out which one is in use, because they, when they do the ECM programming, they will take and turn one of those off and one of them on depending on what they're using. And there's some other things in here, clutch pedal position switch. So if your engine came off of a manual, that might be turned on, and then your neutral switch, transmission neutral switch, will be turned off. So you're gonna have to kind of figure that out, whether you take the ECM to Cat, when you're done, and say, hey, can you just program it? Or what I did I knew mine came with an automatic, so I was set there. And then with the brake pedal position switch, I had some issues with the foot switch anyways, so I ordered one off of a newer truck, and it actually came with a set of normally open and normally closed contacts. So I hooked both of them into the computer. I honestly don't know which one it's using, but it has both of them. So when you hit the brakes, it opens the ground and closes the hot, and that worked for me. And you have to have that in order for your cruise control to work, you know, because you kind of want the engine to stop pushing you when you hit the brakes. And one thing I learned, you need the transmission neutral switch, the brake pedal switch, and the speed sensor in order for the cruise control to work properly, and the high idle. So it's pretty simple. There's really not like a whole lot to it. Interesting thing about the fans, and we'll probably cover this a little later in the video because I'll probably forget that I told you this, but it has an output number 5, pin 11. That's your cooling fan solenoid output. So these engines, the majority of the time, the way that they work, they have an air solenoid for the fan. It applies pressure to let the fan free spin, you know, because it's a engine-driven fan with an air clutch on it. Basically, the way that that works is it's opposite of what you think it is, because I put electric fans on mine, and I was just like, oh, it's got a cooling fan output. I'll hook right into that, and it'll be perfect. So I tied that into a relay so that the ECM would tell the relay when to kick on and off, and that would turn my fans on and off. When I started it, the fans just came on. I was like, oh, whatever, fans are on. You know, and it's just one of those things that I figured it's not going to hurt anything just to have them running, and I didn't know why it wasn't running. And then I was able, this is another thing right here, you got to keep records too. I was able to get the diagnostic procedure for the cooling fan to figure out what exactly the cooling fan needs to operate and all that. So basically the way that it works is when there's no power, the fan free spins. When you put power to it, the fan, when you put power to it, the fan free spins. And when you remove power, the fan comes on. So it's opposite of how you would think it would work with like an electric fan. So I ended up with, this was the diagram that I ended up making myself, but I ended up having 3 relays to make the fans work the way that I wanted them to. You know, the way to fix that would be to put the fans on a normally closed relay so that when it applies power, it turns them off. The issue becomes when you shut the truck off, now that relay gets de-energized and the fans turn on. So you have to have it on an ignition source. So I had an ignition source that turned on one relay that sent power to the other relay, and then my issue was, you know, I don't want the fans running while the key's just sitting there on, you know, while the grid heater's warming up or whatever, you know, when I'm listening to the radio. So then I added a second relay for the grid heater. So when the grid heater kicked on, it would shut the fans off. So the grid heater had to be off, the ignition had to be on, and the computer had to be telling the fans to run in order for them to run. And it worked, but you know, it's not perfect. I'm hoping to do it a little better this time. These ECMs have a number of other outputs besides, you know, there's a couple of spare outputs in here. See, we got like output 4 to number 1. None of those are being used, and they can be programmed to whatever. And I'm hoping that maybe I can take my ECM over to Caterpillar and have them program one of those outputs to an engine run status. So, you know, unless the engine's running, there's gonna be no power coming out of that pin. But as soon as the engine is actually running, it'll send power out, energize a relay, sending power to the second relay for the cooling fan. So I'll be going from 3 relays to 2, which will be a little better. But those were the major hurdles that I faced. Another thing for you guys. So as I was trying to explain last night, don't be afraid to go into your local shops and ask around and tell them what you're doing and, you know, get their input on it. Before I even bought the engine, the 3126, I went to a transmission swap because I don't know if I ever talked about this in a video, but my original plan, I didn't know if I was gonna be able to get the transmission that was attached to the back of the 3126. My original plan was to use the E4OD and make an adapter and all that to bolt the E4OD to the Caterpillar and make it all work together. And I didn't know if it was even possible or anything like that. So I went to a local transmission shop, told them what I was looking to do, and they looked at me like I was dumb. And they said, first of all, you'll never get it to work reliably behind that engine. Second of all, E4OD is junk. He said they can't even handle the power of the IDIs that they put them behind. He said it won't last long behind that cat. He said, go with an Allison. We don't see them in the shop very often. While I was there, they actually printed off this diagram here, which came in pretty handy. This is basically the entire diagram for the factory Ford computer that was in there. And so it basically told me what everything on that computer plug did, which came in really handy for a lot of different things. And they didn't charge me anything for this, you know, I just told them what I was looking to do, and they were like, hey, hold on, let's print this up. So I got that from them. And at one point I was having some issues with the parking lights. I went down to my Ford dealership, asked them if they had some books, you know, wire diagrams, and the guy goes back and brings out like 4 different service manuals for these trucks. And I said, you mind if I take some pictures of different pages? So I sat there and made my own service manual. I have like 600 pictures. I just sat there and flipped the page, click, flip the page. They looked at me like I was stupid, but you know, now I have like all the wiring diagrams. They didn't have one for the 91, so it was the more of like an OBS. I think it was an Econoline book, but you know, the issue with my parking lights, originally all the wiring comes from the passenger side, and I switched it all to come from the driver's side, and so I got rid of all the fusible links that we had and I replaced them with inline fuses, and they work a lot better when you put fuses in them. So yeah, the wiring is not overly complicated or difficult. Just take your time, get the correct information that you need, and go from there. Take notes. Like this was all stuff that I did when we were first doing the swap. Took detailed notes, like this is the gauges, what every wire on the gauges, the factory gauges do, so I could use those, the same wires for my gauges. You know, every plug that I made up, I kept a diagram of what everything does on it. So yeah, so that's pretty much a good starting point for your wiring project. Figure out what you need and go from there. So, like I said, a lot of this stuff I may not even actually need, but you know, I'm gonna run a wire anyways and mark it under the dash. And if I need it, it's there. If not, then, you know, it's just a spare. And if I did miss something, then I can pull that pin out of the ECM and switch it to a different one and make it something else. So, I mean, this notebook was brand new when I started this project, and gone through a lot of pages. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this video. You guys like the green screen effect? This is what the truck looks like when it's done. We'll get there someday, back to its former glory, but for now, we're just going to have to keep plugging away at this wiring. This video here, we got all the wiring kind of figured out, got a game plan for how we're going to do it. And the next video, we'll start making up some wiring harnesses, pinning out connectors, and figuring out what we need to do. We'll get some fuse boxes in, and I don't really know all what we do in the next video, but we'll get there eventually. Wiring videos, you know, they're kind of, I didn't want to make them like super long and really kind of boring. So I'm trying to kind of divide them up, keep them under 30 minutes a piece. That way they're not like, you know, 3 hours long of me like the red wire goes to the blue wire. We're going to try to divide it up a little bit here for you. Try to make them somewhat interesting, watchable. If you guys have any questions on any of the wiring stuff, why I did stuff the way I did, or if I didn't show something that you wanted to see, let me know down in the comments section down below. I'll try to answer your question the best I can. Be sure to leave your other thoughts, comments, suggestions, questions, whatever down below in the comments section. I enjoy reading your feedback. Real quick, a few videos back, I did a like challenge and it did well, but we didn't quite reach our goal. So if you guys want to see me rip these shrubs out over here with this green screen truck behind me, then be sure to go back and watch that video and hit that like button. We're over halfway there. And someone commented on that video and was like, oh, don't be dumb. You're going to use the truck to pull those out anyways. No one wants to hand dig out a shrub. Absolutely, I'll use the truck to pull them out, but I just won't show you. That's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button. If you really enjoyed the video and you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Hoping to kind of get back into posting videos here. And it's been a very long time since I posted a video. I think as of like now, it's been like 80 days. Things have been busy for me, and you know, some different life changes and stuff. Just, you know, life happens, and unfortunately, you know, the YouTube aspect of things is kind of real low on the priority totem pole. So we have been filming videos, so I have a lot of footage of things happening, and you know, so eventually here we'll get around to editing them, and I'm hoping to get those out soon, but we'll see how it goes. Hope you guys are doing well, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.